Hi everyone, let's try to make the HTML forms look much better. Let's remove the boring options, but this is an amazing CSS makeover. It just requires only CSS. As usual, this is for a beginner. As usual, this is going to be a beginner-friendly coding workshop or walkthrough where I'm going to use HTML CSS on the left side, and on the right side, you will be looking at a browser window as a preview. So the starting thing that I'm going to do is I'm not going to use any of the default HTML skeleton, which includes HTML head and body. Instead of it, I'm going to directly jump onto the needed ones. So we are starting with the unordered list. Why? Because it is a list of options. So I'm going to start with UL, and again, I'm going to use Emmet here. Please let me know how many of you have got no idea about Emmet, and if you would like to have a tutorial on that, I'm happy to do that. Okay, so we have our unordered list tag. Then inside that, obviously the main answer will be list item, but we want 4 options here. So I'm going to put *4, which will make 4 list items. And then inside that, I want to put a label and an input, where for the input, I'm actually giving a type of radio and with a name option, and then the value will be $, which translates into opt1, opt2, opt3, and opt4. Probably I will just remove this, and then I'll just start with the basic thing, but with a span as a child, a sibling to the option. So this will also give me the text that is needed inside the option button. Okay, now let's convert it into HTML. So basically, it gets converted like this. So you have a UL tag, and there is a list item. There will be like 4 list items, and then everything will have an input type radio and a span inside a label. Okay, so we need a name here. If not, everything gets selected. So let's add a name. This way, you get only one selected every single time when you click on this. And we also need to identify it with a value. So for all these things, I'm also giving a value of opt1, opt2, opt3, and opt4. This is the basic HTML. And this looks very, very boring, right? So let's start with the style tag. Okay, a style tag, because here I'm just giving you an example. Please use the CSS file for it. The first thing that I wanted to clear out is the UL and LI part here. It has got this crazy bullet, so I don't want that. So I'm going to reset both margins and padding, but the bullet has not gone. If you actually go beyond this part, you would be able to see the bullet. So I'm also going to give a list style as none. The next thing that I wanted to do is you want the label to be displayed in a better way. So I'm going to use the label tag and style it. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to display it as block. And then let me give some spacing around it so that it looks much better. And then we can also make it aligned centrally. Did I make a mistake? Oh, I don't want it to be so huge. So let me give a width as well in this case. So I'm not going to give I'm going to get rid of the input elements here first. So let me remove this input element, and then I'm also planning to style the span. That is where we have to work on the widths. So here, the first thing I'm going to give a span, which is an inline element, converting it into a block element. So I'm going to give a display block here. The next thing is I want to restrict the width to 100 px. That is what I said initially. So we have restricted the width to 100 pixels, but we don't know where exactly the widths are, right? How about adding some borders? So this gives you an idea of where exactly the span is looking at. And another problem is, first thing, we don't understand which is selected, and this also looks a bit off. If you see the text, the piece ligature is actually touching the border. I guess we need to fix that. So I'm going to do a line height and a padding, and then this looks much better, right? Okay. The next thing is we need to show the selected states, right? We don't know whether this is selected or not. So I'm also going to give it as a cursor pointer, so we know that when we come here, it is actually a selectable link. Then we will also give a transition for all these things. I'll tell you how it helps in the later stage. Now, let's go ahead and style the hover element when the span is hovered upon. Okay. What do you want to change? The basic thing, the background, the color, probably the border color. So I'm going to change the background color and the border color. Remember, I have added the transition, right? Do you see how amazing the effect is? It is actually going really cool. So this is what I wanted to do with this. All right. What is the next I wanted to do? What happens when you click on when it is checked? So this style needs to be created. So I'm going to open up the checked span. The way I have written this one is with input, I have the span next to it. And then if the input is checked, this is the styles that it is going to take up. Now I'm going to add some background color, a light blue and very light blue border color. So if I click on something, you could see that there is a small difference, there is a slight difference between the checked element and also the normal element. So I give this kind of a differentiation, and then this looks almost good, right? Okay, so this is what I'm planning to. I hope this was very much helpful and it was cool because it gives you a small uplift on your user experience to see the boring input buttons, input forms on options. So I hope this helped a lot. If you have any comments or feedback, please hit the like, subscribe to my channel, put a comment, share it with other people, and let me know what I can do in the next video. Until then, bye from Praveen.